Hi everybody, this is Justina with JustynaTHandMade. In today's video, I'm gonna show you how this cute little treat or trick Halloween tote bag comes together. I designed it so you can feature any cute Halloween print. If you are interested in this exact print, you can grab a piece of that fabric from my Spoonflower profile. Just make sure you're gonna get the small scale of the fabric, because there it's available in two scales, the large scale and the small scale. For this project we are using the small scale. In one of my previous videos I used the large scale of this fabric for a cute seasonal tote bag, adult size tote bag, so you can check the video list and see the difference. For this project you're gonna need a piece of cork fabric like I'm using here, or a vinyl material, because we're gonna have this exposed edges for our reversed applique. So that's something to keep in mind. Other than that, I'm using a ripstick nylon fabric for my lining. You can use cotton, woven cotton, whatever you have on hand. I just wanted to use this fabric because it does gives the bag a little more structure, since my cork it's a pretty thin kind of material. The full supply list for this project is available in the Etsy listing, so if you are interested in grabbing a copy of this pattern, just follow the link in the description to my Etsy store and you can grab a copy. The pattern comes with the template for the cutout. It's a template that helps you cut the cutout itself, but also helps you with the correct placement on the panel. The rest of the panels is cut based on the cut list. So you only have to print one page. The rest you can just use a quilter's ruler to cut your pieces. If you are my Facebook group member, check out the Facebook post to grab the discount code for this pattern. It's gonna be active for about a week from the date of launch of this video. If you are coming across my channel for the first time and you do enjoy this video, please make sure to subscribe and to give the video a thumbs up. If you don't want to miss any upcoming tutorials, make sure to mark the notification bell. And if you have any questions, comments, suggestions, please leave a comment. And now, if you want to see how this little cute trick-or-treating tote bag comes together, please keep watching. To start our project, we're gonna prep all our pattern cuts and supplies. It's not much, it's a pretty quick project, so I'm just gonna run through to explain it to you, and then we're gonna get sewing. So first of all, you're gonna have this template provided in the pattern file. You're gonna cut out the inside of the little spider web, so just prep your pattern piece like that. Then you're gonna cut a piece of the accent fabric with any print you would like to feature on your bag. As you can see, I have my little ghost all ready and prepped. I also, because I'm using a woven cotton fabric that is not very sturdy, I decided to interface it with the Sew Fuse Plus, so it has a little bit of stiffness to it. Then I have my two outer panels. They are cut out of the cork material. You can use vinyl as well. It just has to be a fabric that can have a exposed raw edge, as we're gonna insert our accent fabric in a cutout in the panel. So you wanna have two of these. And then we're gonna have two lining panels. I'm using nylon ripstop material. It's a water resistant fabric, so I think it's a perfect material to use for our Halloween tote. You can use waterproof canvas. There are different thicknesses of that fabric, so whatever you have on hand, something that you can wipe it, like a polyester fabric, probably would work best. And then we have 2 pieces of webbing tape cut out for our handles, and this length is also provided in a cut list. Now that we have all our pattern pieces cut and prepped, we're gonna start with the insert in our front panel. So I have it pre-prepped, but I'm gonna show you the instructions how to do it. I'm gonna put everything else to the side. So like I said, when you print the cutout template, you're gonna cut out the inside of the spider web shape. Then you're gonna take your outer panel, and making sure if you're using something that is directional, just make sure it's the right side up. Then you're gonna take the template, you're gonna center it on the wrong side of your front outer panel, and then you're gonna trace the shape onto your fabric. This way you're gonna have the correct placement on your panel marked and the shape traced. And now that we have that done, we can cut the shape in our panel. Now that that's done, if you're using a fabric that has a little bit of a fuzzy backing, you can always just zap the edges with the lighter to make sure that none of the fuzzies will show up on the right side of your fabric. And now when you have everything prepped, you're gonna figure out the best placement of your accent fabric. To cut my fabric, I use a see-through quilter's ruler, so I can see the midpoint of the panel, and this way I was able to place my little ghost and the pumpkin in the middle of the panel, so this way I know how it's gonna sit inside of my opening. To help us keep the accent fabric inside of our opening, we're gonna use double-sided tape. When you have that placed, you can now take your project to the machine, and you're gonna be sewing all along the opening, following the shape of the web with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. I'm using Gutenman Mera polyester thread. You can overlap the stitches, or you can just run up to the last stitch and pull the tails of the thread on the wrong side of the fabric, and you can secure them this way. So take your project to the machine and top stitch around the opening to fix the accent panel, in the front panel of your bag. Now that the accent print is sewn onto the front outer panel, now we're gonna attach our handles. So you're gonna take a ruler and you're gonna measure 2.5 inches from each side, and that's where you're gonna place your handle. Repeat that with the back outer panel. And now you're gonna take both panels to the machine and you're gonna baste the placement of the handles to both panels. And here you're gonna be sewing with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that we have our handles based, we're gonna attach our lining, and just be careful because the lining is not square, so just make sure you are matching the correct sides. See, this side is a little bigger, so just make sure you are putting together the correct sides together. So take your outer panel and take your lining and place both right sides together and clip along the top edge. When you have both panels prepped like this, so the right sides of the lining are with the right sides of the outer panels, you're gonna take the project to the machine and you're gonna sew along the top edge with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Make sure to back stitch on the beginning and on the end of the seam. Now that we have the lining attached to our outer panels, we're gonna move on to top stitching it, but just pay attention because it's not as like a regular top stitching. We're gonna only flip our lining over the seam allowance. You can iron it if you are using fabrics that can be ironed, or you can finger press it. We're gonna do that with both. And having the fabrics in the exact position, we're gonna top stitch on top of the lining. So we're gonna be top stitching the lining to the seam allowance. We are not sewing on the outer fabric, we are sewing on the lining, top stitching it to the seam allowance. So take both panels back to the machine and top stitch on the lining with the 1/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length, attaching the lining to the seam allowance. Now that my linings are top stitched, I'm gonna attach both parts together. So you're gonna place both right sides together first, making sure you are aligning the place where the panels meet, so clip that. And then clip the project all the way around. In the bottom of the lining, we're gonna mark our opening. So you wanna leave about 2 inches from each side. And now that we have the project prepped like this, so we have the outers and the linings clipped together, we're gonna take the project back to the machine and we're gonna sew all around, making sure we leave this opening unsewn so we can turn our project right side up. And we're going to be sewing with a 3/8 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. You want to start with basting those two places to make sure that your top's not going to move while you're sewing your project. And you can actually baste those places so the outer together first and then continue with the lining. This way we have the best chances on making our connection of the panels seamless. So take your project to the machine and sew the outers and the linings together. Now that we have our outer and our lining sewn, and I left my opening unsewn, so that's a good thing. We're gonna have a place to turn our project right side out. So now we're gonna box our corners, and to do that I'm just gonna use a ruler, and measuring from the seam allowances I'm gonna measure 1 1/4 of an inch. Now that we have our corners marked, we're gonna cut them out. And when we have the corners cut, we're gonna box our corners. When we have all our corners boxed, we're gonna sew them closed, but I would just want to mention that you should try to have your bottom seam folded in the same direction, so when the back is sewn the seam allowance will fold in the same direction on the bottom, and it's not gonna try to fight each other. So that's just a tip. But now that we have all our corners clipped, we're gonna take the project back to the machine, and now we're gonna sew all our corners closed with the 1/4 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Make sure to backstitch well on the beginning and on the end of each seam. Now that the corners are boxed, you can trim the seam allowances on the outers if you like, so you have nicer box corners. And now we're gonna turn our project right side out. And now we're gonna place the lining inside of the back. And here you wanna fold the top about 1 inch over your top edge. You're gonna see that the lining is shorter, and it's done on purpose. So you're gonna push on the corners, making sure that your lining corners are inside of your outers, and fold do the same on the other side. So you're gonna place your fingers in the corners of the box corners of the lining and pull on the outer to get a nice fold. Make sure that it looks nice and straight from the top. Push the lining down, making sure it sits nice inside. If everything is looking good to you, you can clip the top if you like, because this is the part where we're gonna top stitch our bag. And now that you have the top of the back folded and you're happy with how it's aligning and how it's looking, you're gonna take your project to the machine and you're gonna top stitch along the top edge. You want, if you're not gonna use rivets or any other fastener to attach the handles to the top edge, you want to include the handles into the top stitching. So you want to be top stitching through the fabric, the outer fabric, and the handle. You can do it either way, but I'm gonna skip that. I don't want to include my handles in the top stitching, just to make it easier on myself. So I'm just gonna place the handles inside, and as an option, I'm gonna attach my handles with rivets, because if I just leave them this way, if you are carrying something, it's just gonna pull the fabric out. You don't want that. So if you are not into rivets, you don't want to attach rivets, you can just sew the handles into the top stitching. So you're gonna be sewing on top of the handles. If you want to avoid that, you can leave them out of the top stitching, and then we're just gonna secure them on the top edge with rivets. So take your project to the machine and top stitch the top edge of your project. Now that my back is top stitched all around, now I'm gonna close the opening in the lining. So I'm gonna pull the lining back up, fold the raw edges inside, and now I'm gonna take it back to the machine and I'm gonna sew the opening in the lining close with the 1/16 of an inch seam allowance and 3.5 stitch length. Now that my lining is closed, I'm gonna place it back in my bag. It's pretty sturdy, so it gives a nice structure to the bag. And now, last thing for me to do is to attach my rivets to hold my handles. Like I said, you could just top stitch them into the top stitching seam if you don't want the rivets, but I like the look, so I'm gonna put some rivets on. Now you can give the bag a little press to set the lining nice and tight, and to maybe remove some wrinkles from your panel if it got wrinkled, and your project is ready to use. Our project is now completed. The last touch I did, I just added my handmade with love tag, and now the bag is ready for trick-or-treating. I think it's gonna be super cute with having the little ones walking around with the handmade bag, collecting their Halloween candy. I hope you enjoyed this project and that you're gonna give it a go. If you do wanna put one of those cute trick-or-treating tote bags together, grab a copy of the pattern. And if you do complete one, please make sure to share it with me on Facebook or tag me on Instagram. I would love to see your creation and maybe even pics of your little ones trick-or-treating with the bags you made. Don't forget to subscribe, give the video a like, and leave a comment. Also share it with your friends if you think anybody would benefit from it. And I will see you in the next video. Till the next time.